Chapter 1151. Despite being in Heath residence, Ethan reveled in the pleasure too much. Olivia was being devoured inside out. Forget about getting out of bed, she thought her bones were going to break from lifting her arm. Mr. Heath is going to keep the Kingstons entertained today. You can keep me company. Resting against his chest, Olivia huffed and puffed, trying to catch her breath. She hadn't returned to her senses from the intense wave of pleasure. If I remember correctly, you've always kept yourself restrained in whatever you do. Why did you become so untrammeled? At that time, he acted like a ruler in whatever he did. Even the gaze he gave her at home was cold. Now, everything was different. A glance from Olivia was enough to turn Ethan into a golden retriever that would pounce on her. His overloaded enthusiasm was hard for her to keep up with. I was too naive back then. I didn't realize how precious you were to me until I lost you. His fingertips traced along her smooth cheek. Liv, after experiencing so many things, do you know how happy I am to be able to still hug you? It took a lot of lessons for one to realize one's desires. There were a lot of things fettering Ethan's freedom during his younger days. When he lost the person he cherished, he regretted it from the bottom of his heart, day and night. It wasn't easy for him to discover that ray of hope to live again. No matter what it took, he was determined not to return to that slump of darkness. It was not until night that he left the room with a heavy heart. Now that the source of chaos had disappeared, Olivia was able to get a good night's rest. She was all-spirited the next day. Today, she needed to perform acupuncture on Marina. Olivia specially made breakfast for Mason, who had a restless sleep last night. Tired, he rested his hand on his temple. Grandpa Mason, did you not sleep last night again? That's normal for old people. Olivia initially wanted to leave after serving breakfast. But the sight of his listless expression elicited a sigh from her. Lie down, I'll give you a massage. You know a lot. I learned a lot of traditional medicine from my grandmother. Mason closed his eyes. Do you miss your family? So what if I miss them? I don't know where they are or who they are. Helplessness seeped into her voice. Don't be pressured by your kids' matters. It's their lives. Your injury is a serious one. The emotional stress from overthinking won't do you good. I can treat your body, but not your mental illness. If only my daughter were as mature as you are, I'd be able to get a good night's sleep. Miss Heath grew up pampered. It's not a bad thing for her to suffer a little. She'll grow up. I'm embarrassed that you saw that. Olivia shook her head. Don't be. Everyone drank a lot that night, and she's young. It's easy to cross the line considering the situation. Thanks for the massage. I feel much better. I'll prescribe some medicine for you. Ask someone to get the ingredients. When I return, I'll make a bag of herbs to aid your sleep. You can put it under your pillow. Okay. Mason drifted into sleep during Olivia's massage. She realized that he depended on her very much. It would be easy for her to murder him right now, but she didn't have a reason to do so. She took a blanket to drape it over him. When she walked out of the room, she informed the maids not to enter so as to not disturb him. After putting on a coat, she left the house in a hurry. A car was prepared for her. Getting into the car, she met Linus' eyes. His expression was impassive as he wore a black coat. I'm heading somewhere. I can drop you off along the way. Thanks. Olivia stayed close to the car door, leaving a huge space in between. He asked, Are you afraid of me? No. What I have for you is respect, she answered confidently. Her eyes were free from clouds of fear. Linus rested his hands on his knees. His posture was always upright wherever he was. I heard that the drink you had was drugged. He suddenly leaned toward her, driving her to a corner. His glint was shrewd. How did you pull it through? Chapter 1152. Yeah, I drank it. Olivia's voice was indifferent. Linus' eyes were fixated on her. How did you pull it through? Have you forgotten that I'm a doctor, Mr. Linus? It's not like it's a terminal illness. No one could find fault with her perfect answer. Looking outside the window, she sighed. It seems like the snow will be pouring for a few days. Please inform your father to stay warm. He's weak and can't catch a cold. I won't be around for 2 days. I've handed the recipes to your mother. Okay. Plus, keep him away from emotional stress. He has just undergone a heart surgery. Overworking is a no-no for him. Mood swings too. It's best to keep him lighthearted always, she reminded. I'll take note of that. The car stopped at the Carlton residence. She gave him a nod. I should get going, then. The roads are slippery because of the weather. Drive safely. Linus grabbed her hand unconsciously. Her eyes were directed at his hand, carrying a tint of aloofness. Is there anything else, Mr. Linus? He quickly released her. Sorry, I just wanted to ask if you need a ride back the day after tomorrow. I can travel back by myself, thanks. She pushed the car door open, embracing the cold wind. Linus suddenly asked, I heard that your daughter is going to turn 3 soon. You have lost your memories and been single for so many years. Have you never thought of finding a partner? He lacked the experience of dating and chasing someone, hence the straightforward question. It reminded her of what Ethan had said. Before this, she merely shrugged it off as a mere coincidence. Now, the uneasiness in Linus' eyes had given her a certain answer. He liked her. I'm happy with my life right now and have no plans of marriage. Bye. She strode away without looking back. The Carltons, who had been waiting for her, welcomed her. Meanwhile, Linus watched her leave, deeply absorbed in his thoughts. Otto saw Olivia as a goddess upon learning that the Heaths showed her reverence. Vanessa, you're a miraculous doctor. You've only given Marina acupuncture treatment a few times, but I already see impressive progress in her recovery. Of course, I also made sure she had a foot spa every day. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Even Marina's impression of Olivia had changed. At first, she found the doctor quite weird due to the hostility. Her days were no less different than hell. She put up with it for 2 weeks, and now, she could slowly feel her legs and be in more control of them. Her respect for Olivia had grown. When will I be able to walk? Olivia stared at the scars covering Marina's feet. It was the result of poking the blisters. It was easy to tell how much Marina suffered in the past weeks. Like a bird yearning to fly out of the cage, she desired freedom more than anything. Olivia thought, soon, she'll know what awaits her outside the cage. 2 to 3 months, depending on your fitness, she answered without lifting her head. I'll be able to walk again that soon. Marina was touched to tears of joy. That is if everything goes well. Lie down. I'm going to start the acupuncture treatment. The next acupuncture treatment was always more painful than the last one. Although Marina dipped her feet in hot water every day, she couldn't get used to the pain. She clenched her teeth at the pain, showing full determination. It was as though something was on her mind. Grandpa, did you hear that? I'll be able to walk again soon. Otto caressed her head lovingly. Yes, I didn't expect that. I had thought it would have been impossible. Marina had high hopes. Say, do you think Ethan will consider me once I recover? Chapter 1153. Olivia's hands didn't stop, and she didn't show hesitation when she inserted the needles into Marina. Olivia inwardly exclaimed, Ethan's a charming man, isn't he? There's Crystal, who can't forget about him, and there's Marina, who's willing to sacrifice anything to marry him. Otto caressed Marina's head. We need the Millers' support. Marina, don't make him angry. Things are different from how they used to be. Sorrow colored Marina's eyes for a moment as she was unwilling to give up. After all, she almost became Ethan's wife back then. How could she accept such a huge difference? Olivia was reading a book at the side after inserting the needles. The maid served desserts and snacks. Fabian stood next to Marina with a grim expression. It seemed like her words had offended him. Even after what had happened in the past, Marina hadn't become any wiser. Back then, her wayward actions drove her parents to death. Yes, she didn't learn her lesson. Fabian was the current head of the household, but she kept ticking him off instead of buttering him up. She was the same idiotic Marina. When the acupuncture session ended, Olivia left immediately like always. The Carltons prepared a car to send her back. When she left the place, she saw a rushing Fabian enter another car. Both the cars were driven off almost at the same time. They separated ways at the junction. It didn't come across as anything to her until she saw a black Bentley following behind Fabian's car. She didn't miss the license plate during the brief glance. It was Yale's car. Was it a coincidence? Olivia stopped the driver. Please drop me off here. There's a sudden change to my schedule. Okay. Olivia watched the car drive away. It happened to be the red light, and she crossed the road. The two cars were pulled over on the next street. Fabian entered a private restaurant. 10 minutes later, Yale showed up. As she had expected, a lot of things weren't coincidental in this world. It seems like a prior appointment. However, to Olivia's dismay, the private restaurant ran solely on a reservation system. She couldn't enter without making a reservation. Otto had always been acquainted with Ethan all this time. Fabian, who was now the head of the household, had decided to form a connection with Yale. She had guessed right, Fabian was not a simple man. A huge change was bound to happen within Aldenvine. Olivia sent the picture of the men entering the same restaurant to Ethan. Since she didn't want to join the fray, this was the only thing she could do for Ethan. She received a quick reply. Liv, are you worried about me? She didn't reply to that, but the other party bombarded her with massages. I'm so happy. Don't worry, I'll deal with it. A smile appeared across her lips as she thought, this might be an overkill. Ethan might have already guessed what they're doing. She deleted the chat history and looked at the pinned chat. She had been giving Warren the cold treatment these days. He was fazed after listening to what she had said, which wasn't to her surprise. He had been taking the initiative to text her these days. She finally had the time to send him a message today, can we meet up? She received a reply from Warren very quickly. It was quicker than before. Men are all the same. He didn't care about Mona, who loved him so much. As the conventional man he was, he ended up falling in love with a pretty face. Chapter 1154. Olivia invited Warren to a music show. He liked that musician, and it was the bit of information she had jumped through hoops to discover. She had asked Ethan to buy her the tickets some time ago. She returned home to doll up for the occasion. By the time Warren saw her, she was standing under a pine tree. She seemed to have been waiting for a while now. There was a pile of snow over her head. She raised her head with those crystal clear eyes. She didn't even realize he was right next to her. What are you looking at? She jumped like a surprised bunny. Warren, I saw a squirrel. Warren had never met a woman with such clear eyes, holding innocence yet so seductive at times. Have you been waiting in the snow? Olivia grinned. Don't you think that it's rare to encounter such little animals in metropolitan areas? It is. Let's go. The music show is starting soon. Sure. She took the lead in front of him with a bright smile, maintaining a safe distance from him. Warren was socially recluse and used to solidarity. Despite knowing the considerable risk entailed every time he stepped out of the house, he couldn't resist her invitation. As if cast by a spell, he kept staring at their chat history blankly. In the past, the other party was merely a fictional existence to him. After learning that it was Olivia, his attitude shifted from wariness to acceptance. He couldn't quite put a finger on his emotions right now either. Her words conjured images in his head. He could even picture her expressions whenever she said certain words. Warren was falling harder and harder for her without him realizing it. By the time he caught on to his feelings, he was far down the rabbit hole. Are you busy these days? He also started trying to learn more about her. Yeah, I received the ownership of some stores when I divorced. Some management is needed here and there. She didn't hide the fact that she was a divorced woman. Her confidence sent him to the throes of guilt instead. He was full of lies this whole time. Like a mouse in the gutter, he could only watch her in the dark. Olivia began hesitantly. I was drunk and blabbered something funny that night. You didn't take it to heart, did you? Warren recalled the time when she pinned him against the wall, when her lips curled into a provocative smirk. The sheer thought of it tickled inside him. What if I say I did? Her eyes widened like those of a flustered bunny. I was just spouting nonsense. He flashed her a smile. Relax, I was just kidding. How could someone like him start dating? Not to mention dating Olivia. They found their seats, and silence sat in the air. He was a reticent man to begin with. When Olivia became quiet, he didn't know what to talk about anymore. The lights were turned off at the audience seats, leaving a ray of light illuminating the stage. Then, a soft female voice could be heard. "Linus, here are our seats." Olivia thought, Linus. It's a rare name in Aldenvine, though. She cast a glance over her shoulder, only to see Linus over there. There happened to be 2 empty seats behind her. She thought, don't tell me he's having a blind date here, of all places. All these years, Linus rarely came to Aldenvine because he was busy at the border. Linus might know of the tragic love between Ethan and his ex-wife, but Olivia wasn't sure if he knew what she looked like or not. It would be awkward for him to find out that she was here. She wondered, has he recognized me yet? Chapter 1155. Rustling sounds came from behind, indicating that the 2 had claimed the seats. Olivia's senses caught that intimidating gaze even without her looking back. As if someone had her at gunpoint, she didn't dare to act recklessly. Pins and needles of uneasiness poked her skin. It was fortunate that Warren was a quiet man. "Linus, how long are you going to be in the city for?" asked the female voice, so soft that it could stimulate one's sense of protectiveness. Linus replied impassively, "Please remain silent when the show is ongoing." Olivia was rendered speechless, thinking, behold the most insensitive man in the world. No wonder he's still single in his 30s. Her heart suddenly swelled in gratitude as she reflected on the past. Although Ethan had a cold disposition at that time, he treated her gently and with care. He would never blurt such words to her either. Considering how difficult it was to enjoy a date with Linus, she wished Linus, date the best. As Olivia expected, the woman didn't speak further. Only music filled their ears. From the moment he entered the audience seats, Linus felt a gaze from the front focusing on him. But whenever he raised his eyes, that woman had cast her attention to the front. Sitting behind her, he could only see the back of her head and a pair of pearl earrings hanging from her ears. A faint scent wafted his nose seconds after he claimed his seat and his eyes brightened. It smelled like herbs. It smelled like Vanessa's natural body scent. Wondering if she was here as well, he scrutinized the area. There were women around him, but none of them was her. Linus didn't know much about women. Could it be that it was a popular perfume brand among the ladies? Spending most of his time with men gave him the initial idea that it was a distinct natural scent of Vanessa's. After all, the women he interacted with before had the inclination to wear perfume. It smelled either graceful, strong, or fruity, but never like herbs. The only face he didn't check was the woman sitting right in front of him. An icy sensation traced down Olivia's spine, and her hair stood on end. She wondered if it was her mere delusion. Man, it's hard to ignore his presence, she inwardly exclaimed. What would the Heaths do to her when they found out that she was Olivia Fordham? That she had been deceiving them with a fake identity. If she had known that today wasn't her lucky day, she wouldn't have asked Warren to meet up. She basically dug her own grave. When the music show ended, Olivia gracefully rose to her feet to blend in with the crowd. Despite her fast pace, Linus had zeroed in on her. Linus, wait up. Slow down. His date lifted the hem of her dress, trying to catch up with him in her heels but to no avail. Olivia, acting as if nothing was wrong, said to Warren, "Sorry, but I need to go to the washroom." "Okay, I'll go start the car first. I'll wait for you by the road." She then dashed to the ladies, cooping herself inside for 10 minutes. When she figured that Linus had left with his date, she strode out of the washroom gracefully. Right then, a shuffling sound could be heard. It belonged to the rolling of a lighter's spark wheel. She looked across her shoulder instinctively and met a pair of cold eyes. It was Linus. His eyes caught every nuance of her expression. It was possible for him to recognize Ethan's ex-wife, but Olivia had never seen him with this face. The notion settled her nerves, and she attempted to shift her gaze calmly. "Wait up," he stopped her. Chapter 1156. Olivia halted and spun around to face Linus. Neither humbly nor arrogantly, she spoke in her own voice, "Anything, mister." He marched forward, and she was on tenterhooks. If her identity was exposed, Would it cause Ethan trouble? The Heaths might think that she came under Ethan's orders. To her bewilderment, Linus proffered a scarf. You dropped this. She looked at the scarf, which was supposed to be tied to her bag. It had dropped without her realizing it. A weight lifted off her chest. Thanks. Olivia headed to the roadside with hasty footsteps, where Warren was waiting for her. He caught on to her anxiety. What's the matter? I met an old friend. Let's go. No further questions were asked as he noticed that she didn't want to talk about it. He skirted to another topic. What would you like to have? Absent-mindedly, she rested her cheek on her palm. Anything's fine with me. I'll make the call, then. He drove them to a couple's restaurant. He would never come to such a place in the past. But he began to grow attuned to the existence of such restaurants after meeting Olivia several times. Some restaurants were even listed in his memo. This couple's restaurant had the best reviews and environment out of all. The night sky in Aldenvine was breathtaking. The shade of snow adorned the whole city, turning it into a fairy tale-like place. Olivia saw a familiar figure as soon as she finished ordering the food. She wondered, is luck totally not on my side today? It's Linus and his date again. Fortunately, Linus seemed to not notice her presence. Olivia and Warren shared a few words until he received a phone call, which made his face fall. She checked the time on her phone. It was time. As she expected, he stood up. Sorry, but I gotta go. Something happened to my family. Calm down. What happened? She inquired. My mom fell in the snow, and she's a heart attack patient. I have to take her to the hospital immediately. I'll come with you. I'm a doctor. They left in a hurry. Meanwhile, Linus, enjoying his steak, suddenly popped a question. What do Lada's perfume normally smell like? Assuming that he wanted to buy her a gift, Julia Glass answered, there are lots of types. They can be made of plants or animals. There are too many kinds. Are their perfumes mainly made of herbs? It's not like there's none, but they're not that popular. Who doesn't want to smell nice? Herbal scents are too bitter. They don't smell that nice. I don't know much about this. Could you help me gather a list of herbal scented perfumes? Not a problem. Collecting perfumes is my hobby. I didn't expect you to like it too, Linus. Guess we'll have more common topics to share in the future. The car sped until it arrived on an ordinary commercial street. Olivia offered Warren some comforting words. Don't worry. According to the symptoms the caretaker told you, your mother should be fine. I hope so. It's fortunate you taught my neighbors first aid. Don't sweat it. I studied medicine at university. It's just some general knowledge. She flashed him a warm smile. Don't be afraid. It'll be fine. Once again, he was smitten by her smile, which also steadied his pulse. He scurried to press the button for the elevator, failing to notice Olivia's cold gaze. She said aloud in her head, it's time you experience what I suffered in the past, Warren. Chapter 1157. During Olivia's first year of investigation, she found out about Warren's true identity. He was an illegitimate child. The person he resented yet loved was his mother, Jenna. Back then, the young and pretty woman intended to be one of the Tovars by leveraging her pregnancy. Later on, Jenna Higgs ruined her face, and Warren was abandoned by the Tovars. The poor child grew up along with the label of a mistress, son. Jenna, who had always dreamed of being Mrs. Tovar, became mentally ill. Warren hired a caretaker to look after Jenna to ensure her well-being. Every time he returned home, he would watch her from afar without ever coming close to her. He loved his mother but couldn't accept her past. Olivia set up a plan. Rain or shine, it was an evening routine for Jenna to buy 2 cups of coffee from a cafe. Thus, it was easy to make her fall. Olivia bet Warren didn't expect her to make him taste his own medicine when he took advantage of Mona to harm her. Judging from the huge house with luxurious interior design, Warren treated Jenna well. Miranda, the caretaker, rushed over. Warren, I was cleaning the dishes and Mrs. Jenna went out to buy coffee like usual. She fell on her way home. I gave her first aid as what your friend taught me. She feels better now. I'll go check on her. Jenna was sitting on the bed in the master bedroom. The scar stretched across her right face seemed to be the trace left by Mrs. Tovar. How are you feeling? It had been years since Jenna saw Warren, so she didn't notice that he had done something to his face. Warren, you're back. I thought I wouldn't be able to see you again. This is my friend. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Jenna. I learn medicine. Is it all right for me to examine you? If it wasn't anything life-threatening, Warren didn't want to take Jenna to the hospital. It might expose his whereabouts. Olivia announced after examining Jenna. Don't worry, her pulse is normal. Her leg should be the most serious problem. Bring some ice packs for her. She needs to be bedridden for a month. Jenna asked, You look young, miss. Do you learn medicine? Olivia nodded. Yeah, my major is medicine. Jenna grabbed Olivia's hand. Is it possible to get rid of the scar on my face? I've used a lot of products, but nothing worked. Those scar removal products on the market are mostly useless. Besides, it mainly depends on your repair tissues. I can tell that the scar has been there for many years. It won't be easy to remove it. I knew it. Looking at her disappointed face, Olivia added, I've been traveling the world the past few years, and I found a scar removal cream by chance. It's not bad. Really, look at my hand. Olivia showed her wrist. I was shot and had a big hole here. Can you see it? It took Jenna a lot of effort to notice the faded scar, and she beamed into a grin. Where is it? If you want it, I can bring it for you next time. Okay, you've given me your word. Olivia observed the sky. It's getting late. I should get going. Warren, send your friend off. Warren escorted Olivia to the door and said, Your mother must be shocked by the fall. Keep her company. I've called a cab. It should be here within minutes. Warren recalled the way she mentioned the shot so casually. Your hand. It happened, but it's all recovered now. I'm fine. Get inside. I'll walk you to the car. Chapter 1158. Warren insisted on walking Olivia to the roadside in the snow. She suddenly stopped in her tracks. I'll ask someone to bring the cream over. Vern. She looked up, wearing a hesitant expression. Let's not meet each other anymore. Why? His eyes were on her. Biting her lip, she seemed like she had been put in a difficult position. I'm afraid. Of what? He took a step forward to her. Her cheeks heated, telling so much although she didn't blurt it out. The cab slowed, and she mustered every ounce of courage in her. I'm afraid I'll fall in love with you, so let's put an end to this. Dust and snow swept up beneath her feet as she dashed into the car. Once the door was closed, the driver stepped on the pedal, leaving Warren standing in the snow alone. His eyes followed the car while his mind went blank. He thought, what did she just say? She likes me. How was he worthy when he had ruined her family? Still, that didn't stop his heart from racing. It was only when a pile of snow landed on his head from the tree branches that he broke from his reverie. His legs took him back into the house of their own accord. A warm embrace welcomed Olivia as soon as she returned home. Ethan bit her ear. Flirting with someone again. She removed her earrings before hugging his neck and kissing him. Are you angry? What do you think? I went to Warren's place to treat his mother. There's one step left before he falls in love with me. Joy radiated off her. Ethan, what kind of expression do you think he'll wear when he finds out the truth? I'm itching to make him kneel before Mona's grave. Sinners never think that they're wrong. He'll only regret not going all out. He slipped her coat off her shoulders and hugged her tightly. Liv, are you really happy with this kind of life? She grinned from ear to ear. Ethan, my hands have long turned filthy. Without his knowledge, she had turned into a killing machine in the past few years. People bullied the soft and kind-hearted Olivia in the past. Near-death experiences showed her the truth of humanity. I will never let go of the people who have hurt me. Marina, Leia, Warren, and that goddamn mastermind. Ethan, she snapped upward with a faint smile. It was a smile that carried intense murderous intent. Her fingertips traced his face. If you're going to stop me, I'll kill you as well. She was there smiling, but her words sent chills. The person standing in front of Ethan suddenly felt unfamiliar to him. She was like a soulless doll. And he was the person who turned her into that. His arms tightened around her. I won't stop you from doing anything you want, Liv. Do whatever you want. I'll help you. I'm on your side. I will never hurt you again. Olivia returned the hug. Hug me, Ethan. Like a siren, she was pulling him down to the sea of darkness. Right then, her phone vibrated. Her gaze swept across the caller's name. It was Warren. Wanna answer it? Ethan asked. Leave it. She turned her phone off and pressed Ethan onto the mat. The unanswered call stirred up the already jumbled feelings in Warren. Chapter 1159. Olivia would have 2 days off, so Ethan took a day's leave too. The couple slept without setting the alarm. When Olivia opened her eyes, he was still beside her watching her gently. Not busy today. I know you're off today, so I made early arrangements. Up already? Yeah, arrangements, you say. It's a surprise. She didn't have a clue about his so-called arrangements. After washing up, she followed him to the helicopter. It was a 2-hour journey to reach an island. Are you bringing me here for a trip? No. Ethan strode forward holding her hand, leading her to a watchtower. Gunshots could be heard from the woods while they were on their way. Soon, she realized his intentions when a kid ran out of the woods. It was Connor. Waves of emotions pounded in her the moment she saw him. Tears ran down her cheeks. It's Connor. His training ends today. I brought you here so that you don't have to ask me questions about him. He scored with flying colors. He took first place in jungle training. Remember to reward him later. Olivia could only make out his silhouette due to the far distance. He had grown a lot in the past 3.5 years. His height seemed to have reached 5 feet 5 even though he hadn't turned 9. Olivia regularly dreamed of him. Every time she woke up from those dreams, she could picture him crying in the snow. It took a while for everyone to emerge from the woods. Olivia recognized them. They were the bullies who had picked on Connor in the past. To her surprise, they stayed by Connor's side out of will even though it had been years. Ethan put on a mask over Olivia's face. Go on. Reward him. Her hands held a badge and a bouquet of flowers. Her son was just right before her, standing taller with tanner skin. He was more built than before too, having lost all baby fat on his cheeks. He was literally the young version of Ethan. Olivia bet Connor would melt the girls' hearts in the future. And that kid was her son. A proud smile appeared across her lips. Her fingers pinned the badge around his chest before she gave him the flowers. He accepted it with a brisk voice. Thank you. Her arms spread as she wanted to hug him. Connor, who wasn't used to a stranger's physical touch, almost dodged her, but Olivia managed to hug him with her fast moves. According to Ethan, Connor was still thin and weak. But Connor no longer gave off the air of a little kid because of his built shoulders. Right when he tried to break free from the embrace, a familiar voice sounded. Congratulations. His eyes widened. It was the voice he was hearing for the first time after more than 3 years. He thought, I must have heard it wrongly. Why does this woman sound like Mom? Olivia released Connor and noticed the blood trickling down his arm. Are you hurt? It's a minor injury. It's fine. Minor injuries can be infected and turn into something serious. Come here. Let me treat it. She dragged him to the infirmary without his consent. Take off your clothes. Let me see if you're hurt elsewhere. I'm not hurt. He gripped the hem of his shirt, embarrassed. Olivia's eyes scanned the area, and she was certain that they were alone. She smiled. I've seen your naked butt lots of times. What are you afraid of? Connor's body froze for a moment until he took off her mask. Emotions overflowed when he finally saw the person he had been missing all this time. Mom. Chapter 1160. Connor threw himself into Olivia's arms, tears flowing like a waterfall. The idea of it being a dream feared him. Mom, is it really you? Olivia failed to hold her tears back as she kept repeating, yes, it's me. Sorry for coming to you so late. I thought you didn't want me, Mom. I waited here for years. Whenever the season for the cherry blossoms to bloom came, Connor would come to the watchtower. However, even if he waited until the flowers withered, she never came. Ethan told Connor that he couldn't locate Olivia either. Years and years passed, and he questioned himself if she didn't come because she disliked him. It's all my fault, son. I was wrong. I should have come to you earlier. You're my precious son. How could I not want you? If he wasn't the eldest son, Olivia would have brought him along to raise him herself. She wiped his tears away. Don't cry, I love you. He definitely grew up physically, but he was still that crying baby on the inside. I can't believe my son is catching up with me in terms of height. Time surely flies. Dad told me that you were sick and needed to go somewhere far for treatment. Have you recovered, Mom? She nodded. I'm fit as a fiddle. Let me check your injuries. Since Connor was dilly-dallying due to shyness, she simply removed his top herself. Although there were some scars, the injuries were not fatal, fortunately. Don't worry, Mom. Dad didn't send me to dangerous places. He just wants me to train myself so that I can protect you when I grow up. He flexed his muscles. Look, I'm a big boy now. You're the best. Olivia was happy to learn that he was growing up healthily. Mom, I heard from Dad that I have a younger sister with green eyes. Olivia scoured her album on her phone for Willow's picture. This is Willow. Whoa, she does have green eyes. That's so cool. Why are mine black, though? He deflated. Besides, I don't look like you. Is it not nice to take after your father? A lot of ladies like him, she teased. I don't wanna take after him. I like you better. Connor turned into a mommy's boy whenever she was around. And Olivia was happy to spoil him. When the day almost ended, Connor asked with a heavy heart, Mom, are you leaving again? Yeah, when can we reunite? Your younger siblings are studying abroad. When the new year comes, I'll bring them back and we can have dinner together. Promise. His eyes were bright. Promise. They made a pinky promise. Now that a promise was secured, Connor broke into a smile. Connor watched Olivia leave with the helicopter, but he wasn't filled with sorrow this time. This wasn't a farewell but the start of a reunion. Considering Olivia's perky self, Connor believed that she had fully recovered. On the way home, Olivia asked, Are you not going to talk to him? Men speak through eyes alone. She was rendered speechless. Wow, funny.